I'll proceed.
Vice Chairman Skindell, Ranking Member Paul, and members of the committee, we are pleased to have the opportunity to present to you testimony for the Small Loan Consumer Protection Act, House Bill 486. In June of 2008, the Ohio legislature passed with bipartisan support HB 545, the short-term lender law. The law was challenged by the payday industry, but it was upheld by 64% of Ohio voters who voted to affirm House Bill 545. The industry and its lenders shifted to other lending statutes, including the Small Loan Act, known as SLA, the Ohio Mortgage Loan Act, known as the OMLA, and some into the credit service organizations, known as CSO statute. Under these programs, the industry was able to add on new fees. One example is the industry's practice of charging a customer upwards of a 10% fee to cash a check issued by the lender itself. This check cashing fee replaced the previous practice of giving the borrower a cash loan. In an effort to provide consumer protection for Ohioans seeking short-term small loans, this bipartisan bill will focus on only 3 core areas of small loans. And here are those 3 areas. Number 1, it will prohibit lenders licensed under all small loan and mortgage lending statutes from charging fees for cashing their own checks. Number 2, it will prohibit lenders from charging an origination fee or a credit check fee more than once in a 90-day period on loans of $1,000 or less. And number 3, it will prohibit lenders from charging a fee to broker loans for another organization or a fee to act as a credit service organization on behalf of the borrower. These 3 changes to our current small loan programs in Ohio will go a long way in helping to protect Ohio consumers. We appreciate the opportunity to bring this bipartisan bill to you, and we are prepared to answer questions this morning.
Gentlemen, before we proceed with questions, Representative Templeton, did you want to add anything?
Mr. Chairman, no, I did not. I just wanted to be here to support Representative Lundy.
Very good. I'll start off with the first question here. Why were these 3 precise areas selected as opposed to a number of other areas that have been brought to issue in this debate?
Vice Chairman Skindell, we've been looking at this issue for quite some time, and through that process, we've had the opportunity to speak with interested parties. We've also had a chance to work in a bipartisan fashion as we've been looking at how to move forward with this legislation. These are 3 areas that we believe have the greatest consensus and at the same time achieve the importance of closing loopholes, which we feel are the 3 most important loopholes that need to be closed.
Any questions? Representative Coley.
Thank you, Chairman, and my colleagues, thanks for being here and presenting this bill. Maybe instead of calling it consumer protection, we'll call this borrowing prohibition. I'm just curious as to why we don't want to allow the consumer to, I mean, you see that there's a cost associated with a business to have cash on hand. So if the lender wanted to lend money and it gives the person a check, why don't we want to allow the consumer to be able to cash the check right at that location? Why do we want to make the consumer go someplace else to cash the check?
Through you, Vice Chairman Skindell, to Representative Coley, we don't have any problem with a check being presented. The problem that we have is that a fee is being charged to cash that check. We are hearing reports of 4%, 5%, upwards of 10% to have that check cashed.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul. Well, but I'm sorry, I'm not aware of any place that the consumer, if they didn't want to pay the fee, couldn't take that check someplace else to cash. Is there some kind of prohibition that prohibits them from taking the check someplace else?
Through you, Vice Chairman, to Representative Coley, just to give you an example of what has been taking place. One of the reports that came into the Attorney General's office was by a customer by the name of David Spencer. And he said that he used to pay $75 for a $500 loan, and then the payday lender charged him a total of $90 to borrow the same amount after the law changed. The man is from Canton. He said in an interview that he balked at paying the store's $50 check cashing charge, but they said once you leave the store, if your bank won't cash it, we won't take it back. So he cashed it there. Just indicating to what is taking place inside those businesses.
Final question, Mr. Chairman.
And doesn't our Commerce Director have the authority right now through promulgation of rules to do all the stuff that you have in this bill?
Through you, Vice Chairman, to Representative Coley. I know that there's been a big misunderstanding around that recently. There's a promulgation of rules that took place regarding the Check Cashing Act. That prohibits charging or collecting any fee to cash a check issued by the check cashing business or an affiliate of the check cashing business in connection with a loan to that customer. And this is from the Department of Commerce. While on the surface, this appears to address the problem of the Mortgage Loan Act, the OMLA registrants, and Small Loan Act, SLA licensees, cashing their own loan proceed checks, we don't believe it will ultimately change this business practice. OMLA registrants and SLA licensees are by statute exempt from the Check Cashing Act. So therefore, OMLA registrants and SLA licensees could simply surrender their current check cashing licenses to avoid the requirement that was put into roll. So that's just for clarification. I know there's been a misunderstanding around the square about that.
I believe Representative Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now that we're on another version of payday lending, I assume there were some discussions, hopefully with the industry itself, in terms of what the impact would be. What, in fact, do you think the impact on the industry would be if this legislation passes, in terms of their existence or otherwise?
Well, the reason, Vice Chairman Skindell, Representative Bacon, the reason that we are here today is because the message that has come back from many legislators on both sides of the aisle is they believe that since 545 was approved, that the economy has certainly gotten worse and access to credit is more difficult to do. So we were sensitive to the fact that there would still be an ability to make money, if you will. I think the question just comes down to how much that money will be. So we put together the legislation that will make it possible for payday lending to be available as a resource for those who have limited credit or limited resources or poor credit. But at the same time, it would be consumer friendly. And this bill believes that, and I believe through this bill, that charging for your own check to cash the check is an excessive fee that's being placed upon consumers.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So to clarify, you think that they will be able to stay in business under this model?
Well, just to give you an example, I would think that they could. Now, whether they'll be making as much money as they would like to make. Just to give you an idea, if you're operating under, let's take a $500 loan, if you're operating under the SLA, you would have a $30 origination fee. Your interest would be just over $5, and that's a 28% interest, and I'm flagging at 28% because it's important to note that when I get to the OMLA. But the total on that loan would be $35.69. The APR is 186%. Now under the OMLA, the origination fee also would be 30 because once you hit 501, the origination fee goes from 15 to 30. So if you're going to make a $500 loan, you're going to do it at 501, I'm sure. The interest now is at 25% under OMLA, and that would be $5.08. The difference in OMLA is you can also charge what's called a credit investigation fee. That's a fee of $10. So that would bring the total proceeds on that loan to $45.08. That APR on a 14-day unsecured loan would be 235% APR.